Philippine shares coming back online after the Labor Day weekend. There's some catching up to do as Asian stocks mostly rose on Monday, though in thin trade. And today we are kicking off from 66.25. Joining us for more on what to expect this week, Sandra Araullo. She's the Chief Investment Officer of ATR Asset Management. Hi, Sandra. Good to see you. Welcome back to Market Edge.
Good morning, Mimi, and good morning to all your viewers.
Good morning. So is it getting more difficult to read this market and where it's going?
Actually, on the contrary, we're seeing quite clear indications of a more constructive outlook for this market, particularly given how it's been consolidating at what we think is likely the support level for the rest of the year.
So it's more sideways trade then for the short term?
It's been on a sideways pattern. We think that's created enough support, or the upside is quite clear from where we stand. Our bear case scenario is actually where we're priced at, and we certainly don't think that's where it should be. So it gives us something like a 17% upside to where our base case scenario is.
All right, 17% sounds good. I just wanted to bring in the opening numbers from the PSEI. We're actually opening flat, actually opened down 13 points, or about 0.002. So it's a flat open for today for the PSEI, 66.24 still. You know, this week, the Fed's policy meeting is going to be the main event. A lot of analysts, experts are saying the 25 basis point hike is an easy hike, but what happens after that becomes more complicated. Do you agree?
Indeed, no, because it's been the Fed more and more has been walking this very, very sharp razor edge, so to speak, in terms of doing or achieving the mandate of bringing down inflation and balancing it with the macroeconomic implications on growth and consumption. So we do think that as it gets closer to terminal rate, the question of where the appropriate terminal rate becomes very important. And so what's certainly priced in is that 25 basis point hike. But remember, it's been solid 500 basis points that they've hiked so far, and it's already showing cracks in the weak spots of the economy, and the Fed is very much cognizant of that, and they don't want to hike more aggressively or continue with that aggressive hiking given the cracks that we've been seeing.
So what do you think is going to happen? Is 25 this week a one and done, or more to come from the Fed?
You know, it's anybody's guess, really. There are still data that will be coming in. The Fed has been quite vocal about being data dependent, but that said, we also have other things to consider. You have the budget ceiling kind of issue, and the Treasury saying that if that impasse doesn't get resolved, their ability to step in and calm markets, particularly when there is banking turmoil, becomes limited. And that kind of exacerbates the big picture. So there's certainly lots of moving parts. And even if it's not necessarily the Fed's mandate around the debt ceiling, they're affected by what's going on the fiscal side. So there is an interplay at work. Of course, we know they're pretty much coordinating, but there are also some risks there, or political wedges that need to be resolved. And really, it's anybody's guess, Mimi.
Anybody's guess. But what's mostly agreed on, the consensus, is the 25 bips happening on May 3rd. In the meantime, what happens between May 3 and May 18 when the Bangko Sentral meets? That's 2 full weeks of rate differential at over 100 basis points. What are you expecting to happen to the peso or the stock market?
Exactly. We do think it's in the currency that we will see the most action, particularly since over the last 30 days, we've seen significant peso weakness. Although not outside of our scenarios, we do think that the peso is likely to end the year at around 55, averaging at 55.30. From now, between now and or between Fed meeting and BSP policy decision, that can give us 50 plus minus 25 cents range. So it really depends on whether the Fed hikes and the BSP pauses. If that's the case, the peso can weaken further, maybe closer to 56 half or even 57. But that said, it's very much transitory weakness. We do think that you do have this inflation, you have return of tourism dollars, and then there is lower pressure on the trade deficit with less imports of vaccines and of lower crude prices. So that should all argue for a stronger peso. So between that range, you know, quite a big range, can be 53 to 57, anchor at 55. Anywhere below 55, we think is a good place to start selling the peso because it's strong, and anywhere above it is a good time to accumulate.
It's a pretty it's a pretty tight rope that the BSP is going to be walking, especially if inflation this Friday shows a third month of easing. Because remember, the governor himself said, as long as I see 3 months of easing in inflation, we're so ready to step on the brakes. But if the Fed raises by 25 and the rate differential widens, will this force the hand of the BSP too? Even with disinflation, continue to, raising rates or stay. So we're all going to have to wait and see. Yes.
Yeah. Remember when the BSP was forced to move last year, it was because of the peso weakness. Since then, there have been tools put in place, or the BSP has been a lot more proactive around the currency management. So that last week they just announced a tweak to the dollar hedging facility on offer. So that should help temper this volatility and gives the BSP more leeway to hold on policy rates in the very likely scenario that we do get continued disinflation.
All right. Zeroing in now on corporate stories. Mediline's core income surging by 53% for the year of 2022. This is, of course, managed by the brother of Manny Villar, Jojo Villar. They import and they distribute cancer treatment machines, other equipment, big ticket equipment for hospitals. We also have Frutas Holdings, the kiosk operator, food and beverage company, growing 2022 revenues by 63% versus 2021. They delivered 221 million of shareholder value. Of course, we're not going to expound on these numbers because we've already moved on to Q1 and they're just reporting full year. This one's new. A-REIT stockholders have approved the 22.5 billion peso property for share swap with its sponsor Ayala Land. And finally, Upson International's stabilization period actually ends today. Just very quickly, stabilization. Any company going public usually will have a stabilization fund to help stabilize the price in case of volatility. And when that finally ends, what happens?
They're at the mercy of the market. It's really where where market participation is important. You want to have that depth. You want to have enough institutional participants and balance out retail participation, because that's also important. But that's when that grace period for where the stabilization fund is really used for is meant to kind of entrench newly public company.
Training wheels are going to be taken off without the stabilization fund. Sandra, you've come to the most exciting part of the conversation, the blind item. Talk to us about this stock that you're monitoring closely. Don't tell us, just describe. What do you have for us today?
Okay, we have a stock that has seen some action, and we think that there can be momentum behind this price action that can bring us an upside of 20%. Although from a fair value standpoint, we're closer, and probably that's just another 10% upside. But because of the momentum, we might see that overshoot. So we like it because of some regional themes, particularly China reopening, causing this to be a beneficiary. It's also taking a lot of market share. It's turned a profit, and we do think that anything in that inflection point tends to attract more eyes and interest, and which can certainly push up the price higher.
All right, 20% sounds promising. Thank you so much, Sandra. We're just going to have to guess which stock this is. Thank you. It's good to see you. Have a great week.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.